The COVID-19 pandemic was handled very differently by countries across the world. Some countries chose to completely ignore it, while other countries locked away their citizens for weeks at a time. Some countries' healthcare systems handled the pandemic without issue, while others completely crumbled. While the COVID-19 pandemic is hopefully coming to an end, in this video we will explore the 5 places to live during the next worldwide pandemic. We will look at the following points. First, freedom of citizens. Second, the healthcare system. Third, age of the population. And fourth, climate. Let's begin. Number 5 is the well-known country of New Zealand. If you were lucky enough to be in New Zealand during the pandemic, it was a great place to be. New Zealand was one of the few countries to completely shut their borders as soon as the pandemic hit, which gave them the ability to almost completely eliminate COVID for some time. This was achieved with a massive lockdown that lasted almost 6 weeks, but after coming out of a lockdown, New Zealand had almost no cases. Those that were already in New Zealand were able to enjoy their lives. However, those that were not in New Zealand were unable to get into the country. New Zealand is also one of the most beautiful countries on Earth, notorious for its role in the film Lord of the Rings. Country number 4 is Iceland. Iceland gets points largely because of its population size. With a population of less than 500,000 people, no one expected Iceland to have any major issues with COVID or any other pandemic. Iceland did not disappoint. But even with its small population, Iceland did a fantastic job of testing its population. In fact, it had the highest testing rate of any country on Earth. This helped keep cases low and keep their healthcare system intact. In addition, Iceland is one of the most beautiful places in the world with massive waterfalls and beautiful seashores. With their state-run healthcare, they pay very little even if someone ends up in the hospital with issues with COVID. Number 3 is the state of Utah in the USA. Utah was one of the best states to live in America during the pandemic. Currently, Utah sits in the bottom 5% of all pandemic deaths per million in the United States. They did this without shutting down and having very little in terms of mandates. Their schools were also some of the first to open back up. A large part of this is likely due to Utah's young population, which helped to keep the hospitals from being too overwhelmed. Utah is also the home to multiple national parks and is one of the best places in America for outdoor enthusiasts. Number 2 is the country of Taiwan. Now, Taiwan took a different approach than other countries and it will likely appeal to a different group of people. Taiwan did not shut down. They did, however, implement extremely strict contact tracing and temperature checking policies. Some of their policies would not have worked in other places or would not have been legal in other places, but they were able to keep their COVID cases extremely low. In fact, Taiwan has recorded less than 1,000 deaths since the start of COVID. In addition, Taiwan has a central healthcare system that makes it easy for anyone who catches COVID to get cheap healthcare. Better yet, Taiwan is a subtropical climate. There are hundreds of beaches, and the people are known for their friendliness. And the number 1 place to live during a pandemic is the country of Sweden. Sweden was initially criticized by many world leaders for its refusal to close down at the start of the pandemic. However, the results are strongly in Sweden's favor. Sweden recorded less than 1,500 deaths per million citizens, which put it quite a bit lower than most of its European counterparts and the United States. Many countries in Europe were significantly more strict than Sweden, yet still suffered more deaths per million citizens. In addition, Sweden's healthcare system was strained during COVID, but was still able to handle that strain. Hospital visits in Sweden are capped at a price of $10 per day, meaning that the citizens that caught COVID ended up in the hospital and did not suffer any financial catastrophes. During the pandemic, determining the best country often depended on their priorities: safety from the virus or freedom from governments. Those looking for freedom enjoyed places like the United States and Sweden, while those looking for more safety enjoyed Taiwan and Iceland. Where would you have preferred to live? Let us know in the comments down below.